Pregame.com.
Welcome back to Pregame.tv. He's Johnny Detroit. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We're going to do a new series we're starting here at Pregame. It's the life of a degenerate gambler. We've all got bad beat stories, big scores, and we're going to do from time to time some videos when we've got guys in the office where we're going to share some of these stories because we've all got them.
Right.
And, you know, they're fun. You know, some of them, well, not so fun, some of them, and other ones are. But, Johnny, if you had to say, you know, what's your worst bad beat?
Well, by bad beats, so all the newbies, and I know we get a lot of people through the major media that are not familiar with the industry, so this is the first time watching something in regards to sports betting. By bad beat, we're talking gambling, we're talking betting. You know, we're not talking bad beat like when Marco goes through the drive-through McDonald's and his 20-piece McNugget only has 18 nuggets in there and he gets home and he gets cheated out of 2. We're talking gambling stories. So, to be honest, I mean, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
You go ahead, because you're going to have a bad beat in the parking lot after this video.
Hey, I was with you at the pool. I'll just run in circles so you're out of breath. For mine, and to be honest, it's, I guess, my highlight and my low light at the same time, because the score was the biggest score I ever had, and it was one of the worst beats I ever had. And I went a stretch that I would be at a poker table, and you'd always have, you know, to me, the poker player, for the most part, is the lowest form of gambling life because...
You know, some of your closest friends are...
I have about 4 or 5 friends that have won World Series events. But they're all professionals. It's always a bad beat. And they have you sit at the table and story after story. So I used to have a thing of saying, you know, everyone put up 100 with the worst gambling, worst beat story. And it was a while that I always won, and this was the story. It was back in 2005. This was prior to pregame. I had a site called LetItRideSports.com. And a lot of the core pregame users were back in the day, you know, my guys. And one year I said, hey, let's enter the Hilton contest. I'll put up the money. If we win, I'll divvy the money up equally amongst everybody. And the 2 main guys that people watching this video from pregame would know was the boys in his honor. We're both on that team. And we had an amazing year. And it was the final weekend, and we were like in the top 5. And we had 5 games. Obviously, that's how the Hilton works. It's a $1,500 entry fee. It's like the World Series of Poker for sports betting. And I remember I was at Detroit Metro, and I was getting on a plane to come to Vegas with a bunch of friends. We were staying at the Venetian, and all of our games were losing. So I'm like, you know, we're still going to make good money. You know, it was a fun run, blah, 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 blah. Get off the plane, and my phone is lighting up like a Christmas tree. You know, because you have your phone turned off, so I get off the plane, and it's like voicemail, voicemail, text, voicemail, text. And we came back, and we won 2 out of the 3 early games. And at this point, we were technically in first. And first place, I believe, paid $230,000, I believe. And there was 2 other guys beneath us. And it was the New York Giants who were playing the Dallas Cowboys. And it was the last game of the season. It was the late game. And it was the last game technically for the contest. And they both had the New York Giants. So as long as the Dallas Cowboys covered, you know, we won close to $250,000. And me being the people's champ that I am, I told the guys prior, and I was a man of my word, if we win, I'm going to split it up equally. So here's a guy just posting on a forum for fun in his underwear while he's not at work, you know, not doing his job at work, and he's online. He's potentially could be getting a check for, you know, there's 5 of us, close to, you know, $50,000. So the game's going back and forth. I'm at the Venetian Sportsbook, and any of my friends who are watching this remember this, as we're doing Jaeger bombs and drinking Long Island, just wasted. Dallas goes down and they score with like under a minute left, so which means we win first place outright. I'm going crazy because the difference between first and second was, I believe, $110,000. So that touchdown was a 6-figure touchdown. So I'm going crazy. Security comes out. My friend's like, dude, he just won the effing Hilton contest. He's won $250,000. The New York Giants go the length of the field. The final play of the game, Dallas gets a pass interference penalty, and the Giants score on the last play of the last game of the regular season. But what happened is first, second, and third all tied, and they end up divvying up the the first, second, through third money, which still is a monster score. I think his and boys could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I cut everyone a check for $25,000. But that one touchdown at the very end of the last game of the season cost me $110,000 and the outright $250,000 win.
You win.
But my quick second place one is, and you know the people that know me will be shocked to say that I was drunk, is
Yeah.
this was also in the Let It Ride days, and for any of your old school bettors know back on Crib, I don't play there anymore, but when you used to bet, they'd have a drop down where you didn't type in what you'd want. It would say 50 pays this, 100 pays this, and you'd pick the drop down and choose. And there was a guy who used the site down south, and he knew everything about NASCAR. And I remember he calls me, he's like, JD, he's like, I'm telling you, he's like, you got to bet Mark Martin in the Coca-Cola 500. I don't know who Mark Martin is. I don't know nothing about NASCAR. And I'm wasted, so I log into my Crib account. And I was going to think, I'll throw 500, you know, I'll bet on it. So I go to the drop down, and it was 20 to 1, and I meant to do 50. But due to the amount of booze I had in my system, everything was a little blurry, and I accidentally bet 500. So I'm watching this race. I have no clue what's going on. I got a friend of mine who's a friend of Facebook, so I'll actually plug his name because he'll be watching this video. His name is Jason Salisbury. Loves NASCAR. So I call him. I'm like, dude, I go, what's going on? What's this caution flag? Why do they keep restarting? I go, does this Mike Martin guy have a chance? He's like, it's named Mike Martin, or Mark Martin. And it ends up winning because of my drunken stupor. It paid $10,000 because it was 20 to 1. So to me, those were my two favorite scores, one being drunk. I was drunk at the other one too, wasn't I?
Well, yeah. Here's a safe bet. If you're in Vegas, you're pretty much drunk all the time.
That's a lock.
That's
my lock of the year.
Okay. Well, mine, speaking of games of the year, my bad beat I remember it like it was yesterday, and we're going to go all the way back to 1988, so we date Marco.
So you're in your mid-40s.
Yeah, great. Playoff game, it was Philadelphia Eagles, Chicago Bears. You got Buddy Ryan coaching the Eagles.
Defense.
Defense going against his old team, the Bears. It was a total, I remember the total was like 33 or 34, low total because of, the defenses in those two teams. I said, it's not going to be a low-scoring game. Buddy Ryan knows how to attack the Bear defense. They're going to put up points. They're not going to try to run the ball down, the strength of each team. They're going to put the ball in the air. This thing's going to go over.
Right.
I give out my playoff game of the year on the over.
So the whole world's watching.
The whole world's watching. Second quarter, right away, Philadelphia goes up and down the field, but they settled for 3 field goals. So they got 9 points on the board. The Bears got 17 points on the board. We're in the second quarter. 17-9 already. We're in the second quarter. And in rolls this fog. I've never seen fog like this in my life. Rolls into Soldier Field and just sits there for the rest of the game. You can't play it. You can't see anything on TV. The announcers are calling the game. They're just guessing at what's going on.
So you dropped your Sunday on the floor.
Yeah. So the game ended up 20 to 12. They scored 3 field goals in the second half. Is all they got because they couldn't see anything. I missed the over-under that was a stone-cold lock, the way the complexion of the game was. I was not a happy camper.
Do you remember how many clients bought it that year?
Back in the day, in the 80s, that was the heyday. There was heyday, 88. We would have had a couple hundred people on board for that, yeah.
So you were hiding out wearing like disguises? And
Nah. I had a ton of fucking, money on it.
Hey, I'm not redoing this video. You're watching a gambling video. You're gonna have to suck it up and deal with that. Sorry.
Yeah, that one wasn't good. But my best score, and guys know that I have horses, and everybody, likes to talk about, horse racing's fixed and everything. I can honestly sit here and say I was never involved in a, horse racing fix. I can tell you, kind of like insider trading, though, when you're a horse owner, you're privileged to information that the betting public doesn't have and is not in a racing form. And the best story I have, and it was probably the biggest score I made in a horse race with one of my horses, is I had a horse that couldn't get that last 16th of a mile. The horse would be on top and just they'd collar every time, and deep stretch should run. She'd be gasping for air.
So like it
would look like me after I was done at the buffet trying to run to get my car.
I was going to say with you and the old lady, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's well, horse race is 2 minutes. Yeah, probably. Okay. You're getting it. We're done. But this horse, we couldn't figure it out. So finally, we had the vets at the track check the horse. We couldn't find anything wrong. I said, there's got to be something wrong. This horse is too good. I kept dropping the horse in class. Same thing was happening. Didn't matter what class I had the horse in. I finally put the horse all the way down into a condition claimer, which anybody that knows horse racing, that's the lowest level you can get the horse in.
Just one step before the glue factory.
And yeah, I take a chance of losing the horse, you know, for much less than the horse is worth, but we can't figure out what's wrong. And still didn't finish well in that race. So I finally took the horse to a clinic, and they looked the horse over, and it turned out the horse had a lung infection. And that's why it was literally running out of air. And that's why we weren't getting that last 1/16 of a mile. So we put the horse on the medicine. Now the only problem with the medicine that we use, it's a legal drug to use for horses, only you cannot race on it. So we had to clear the lung infection up, then wait X number of days for the medicine to clear the system so that the horse doesn't test positive.
And really quick, it's not fixed, but let me guess, you made sure to not make it public information that your horse had a lung infection. Okay.
Yeah, okay. You know, my trainer was under, I said, if anybody finds out, if this horse does not go off double digits,
cleaning poop for
I said, we're moving the horse out of the barn. Nobody is to know about this. So we put the horse back in. I could have raised it up, but I wanted to make sure I had an easy score. I left the horse in the condition claimer, took a chance that somebody, you know, would claim the horse, but on the current form, nobody's going to take the horse. We put the horse in after we had the lung infection, you know, and we were training her hard the whole time she was off. Put her on the engine, put her on top, left the gate. She goes wire to wire, wins by 10 going away, under wraps. The driver's like this, you know, and pays like 28.60 to win. Nailed the exacta, nailed the try. It is like, you know, just that was as easy, that, you know, that's as close to easy money. But technically, it wasn't, you know, that wasn't.
The Marco disclaimer.
Yeah, it's not a fixed rate.
If anybody from Pennsylvania, the Horse Racing Association is watching.
But that's the thing. I mean, that's one of the benefits of, you know, being a horse owner. No, the horses can't talk to you. Okay?
Right.
They can't tell you what's wrong.
Unless it's misdirect.
You've got to figure it out. But when you find something like that, you use it to your advantage.
Well, you're forgetting one of your better scores. Yesterday, we'll close the video with this story so Marco could finish it out. So we're having lunch yesterday, and it's Jesus. Me, RJ, Marco, and our former accountant, and we're talking about, you know, gamblers and money, and there's places in town here in Vegas that will store money. And, you know, we bring up the story of this one place that locally, and if people don't live in Vegas, is they kind of advertise you know, looking to not pay your taxes, don't want your old lady to see where your money's at, we'll store it for you. And you know, Marcos brings it up how he has money in this one place, and the accountant guy goes, yeah, one of those places got robbed last week. Marco, you know, like buckwheat and little rascal. Like. So he says the name of it, and me going with you the one time when you went, it was the place that you kept your money in, just so you could visualize the way this place is when you walk in. It's almost like Star Trek. I mean, it's like a retina scanner, everything else, and Marco being a, you know, plays a decent amount of poker, bets a decent amount of sports, and you know, you like to keep a decent amount of money in this box, so back and forth between the house and the casinos and whatnot, you have a safe place to keep it. And we'd go on the phone and we'd look, and they say how guys with machine guns came in, tied up the employees, and robbed almost all the boxes. There's no insurance. The place is 100% anonymous. I have never seen Marco eat so fast in my life. I've never seen the dude run so fast in my life, and you could actually see his chest beating out of his big burly chest. And we're trying our best not to make fun of you. We
try your best. You guys were laughing the entire time. You and RJ thought it was funny.
We couldn't help ourselves. We started on the way out as you were like all scatterbrained and huffing and puffing, doing lines on the over-under of the amount of money, whether they got your box, what the money line was. But the end result...
I dropped you guys off. I had to run back to my house to get my keys because it's a really good security system. You got to have...
Besides the fact that you got robbed.
But I mean, it was. You had to go... You had to enter codes 2 different places in the building. You had to do the eye retina scan, and then you have to have your keys to actually get into your box. I had to go home and get my keys, got in there, and fortunately, my box was one of the ones that was not, drilled out.
Because they focus, because the one time I went on with you is there's the
There's
boxes.
a big VIP
there's the VIP,
section.
which is probably, the local drug dealers, the big poker players, the local criminals, and they're not too happy. So.
And if you want to check out the story, I mean, as far as, poker people, there was actually a big thread on 2+2, the poker forum where everybody was going. That's because poker players are just like sports bettors. You always have to have
cash on hand,
cash ready, and you don't want to be having it in the bank for.
And if anyone wants to check the validity of the story, you can go to Google News or Google, and it was a
24/7 private vaults, Las Vegas. Yes. Yeah, you can check it out. And Marco, almost had a heart attack at lunch. I know there's I'm even money to have a heart attack sometime during a meal.
And I actually had you hold cash for me not too long ago. Thank God I got it out because. Yeah, I would have been down there. You would have been making fun of me on this video too.
Okay,
so. And the funny thing is, it's not funny. It says to RJ, it was the funniest thing ever. You essentially got robbed.
Yeah, he was hilarious. He was just couldn't. I had never seen him laugh so hard at possibility of me getting.
He's diabolical.
Yeah.
So good beats, bad beats. You know what? Johnny at Pregame. Marco, follow us on Twitter. If you have any good stories you want to do, you could reply to this video. You can post in the forums. I'm not going to sound like the dude in the orange hat and say, continue the conversation. But you know what? This is worth continuing because I'd love to hear the stories.
And if you want to see more of these kind of videos, you got to tell us. We want to do what you guys want. And if you like these kind of stories, tell us. We'll do a continuing series of them because, let me tell you,
there's a lot.
He can tell you a lot. I can tell you a lot. And there's some we can't tell you. But, it's good.
Limitations.
It's good entertainment. So. He's Johnny Detroit. I'm Marco D'Angelo. Be sure to watch all of our videos at pregame.tv, where you'll find coverage of all sporting events. We cover it all for you, and we tell you about our stories as well. Thanks, Johnny, for joining me today.